Hey, everybody, it's Mike, your host of Insider Secrets, and I am joined today for this episode with Mike Ciorrocco from What Are You Made Of? Hey, Mike, welcome to the show today. Please tell our listeners what they're going to hear on the show today.
Yeah, Mike, thank you. Yeah, today's show, we're going to talk about how to become unstoppable by converting all of your setbacks, discouragement, disappointments, screw ups into rocket fuel for your future to become unstoppable. And also today, we're going to talk about how to get 100% participation from yourself.
Awesome. Mike, thanks for being here. And you're going to have to listen inside to get the full version. See you inside.
Welcome to this week's edition of Insider Secrets, the show that turns multifamily investing into reality. Each show we interview guests who are seasoned professionals, actively closing and managing real estate deals. Your host, Mike Morawski, has more than 30 years of multifamily real estate investing and property management experience. Mike is the founder of My Core Intentions and has been involved in over $285 million of transactions. Focuses on helping you create short-term cash flow and long-term wealth. Here's your host, Mike.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Mike, your host of Insider Secrets, and Insider Secrets is brought to you by My Core Intentions. Hey, I'm glad that you're here today, and I am really excited about our guest today. But before we get into that, let me just remind you, please go out and follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you are, LinkedIn, YouTube, subscribe, love us, just help our ratings if you would, please. I really would appreciate that. But I'm going to get into it today. My guest today is Mike Ciorrocco. And Ciorrocco, we want to say hi to everybody.
Yeah, Mike, what's going on? Thank you for having me. I start every show that I go on with gratitude. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity and humbled by the fact that anybody wants to hear my voice in the first place. So thank you very much for having me, Mike.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being here. And I was just saying a minute ago how grateful I am that you're doing this. And so gratitude is such a big thing. But let me just introduce you a little bit. So Ciorrocco is the CEO of People Building Incorporated, the powerhouse behind the What Are You Made Of movement. I'll tell you, when I was on his show and he asked me, what are you made of? Boy, it really makes you think, what are you made of? He's a performance coach, an author, a dynamic public speaker, a visionary, and a thought leader. He's been featured in Yahoo Finance as a top business leader to follow in 2020 and is on a mission to build into people and build them up. He's driven to inspire others and measure his success on how he's able to help others achieve greatness inside themselves, using past life events to fuel their fire, igniting him to write his debut book, Rocket Fuel, which we're going to get into and talk about today. The foreword of that book was written by Grant Cardone. That's pretty cool, huh? Yeah. And I'm going to let him tell us more. Mike, I'm a fan. I love what you do. I love your movement, your mission, the thought leader piece. But here's really what I want to know, and I ask all my guests this. In one word, describe to us what makes you tick, who you are business-wise, professionally, and personally.
I would say the one word would be inexplorable.
Inexplorable. Yeah. So you got to get into that a little bit. Go ahead.
So if I'm a big guy on definitions, I like stubborn's a good word also if it's on the right thing, and that means perversely unyielding. But if I had to use the word inexplorable, I'm going to read the definition to you. I found this word the other day and I'm like, man, I was fascinated with it. Inexplorable is basically an adjective. Basically, one of the meanings behind it was unyielding. You're onto something and you just do not yield going after it. And I looked that word up the other day and I'm like, wow, like there's one part of it that you cannot be explored or discovered. That's not the part I was talking about. If you look up stubborn, the definition of stubborn has two words. Also, it's perversely unyielding. So when I want something, I go get it. And that's something that I would say best describes me.
Yeah, boy, it is a mindset issue, isn't it? When you want something and you really want it, you go after it. I'll never forget, I love words. I love the dictionary. I actually just put the dictionary app on my iPhone. But I remember I was probably in real estate about 3 years and somebody said to me, man, Morawski, you're so tenacious. And I said, oh, thank you very much. I was really gracious about it. Had no idea what it was. Ran home, grabbed the dictionary, looked it up and said, oh, tenacious, that is me. I just go after things just like I want them. And I don't take no for an answer. Hey, let me turn this on you real quick though, because I love your question. What are you made of? So what are you made of?
Rocket fuel, plain and simple. I turn setbacks into rocket fuel and I teach others how to do that. Mike, if you take everything that would normally stop people, like setbacks, discouragement, shit talking, screw ups of our own, we all have screw ups, as you're familiar with. I could have been several situations where I screwed up that could have been a lot worse. If we could take all that and really store it in our tank, in our fuel tank, instead of our trunk where it weighs us down, and convert it into rocket fuel, you become unstoppable.
Yeah. And we all have that baggage. We all have that history of some sort. Some is worse than others, but it doesn't matter stubbing your toe along the way. It's what you do after you stub it. Do you get up or do you just lay there?
Yep.
So listen, obviously something along the ways inspired you. Why don't you tell us your backstory? Let's get into that.
Yeah, so really I grew up around a lot of broken people. Everybody's broken to some extent, to the degree, but when you have a lot of it around you, it shapes you and you determine how it shapes you. Now, I think my protection came from when I was 3 to 4 years old. My mom used to tell me that I was inspiring. Mikey, you inspire me. You're going to be a leader. And so from 3 to 4 years old, she was programming me. And I think it was subconsciously. I want to give her credit, but I'm being transparent. I think it was more subconscious. She knew of the battle and the tough times that I was going to grow up into. And so she was preparing me for that. And so I've been programmed to be a leader from a young age. And so I just lived my life. Thoughts, words, action were always going towards how can I lead people? How can I help people? How can I fix people? Even when they didn't want to be fixed or helped. That's almost impossible, if not impossible, by the way. My mom was moving on to her third marriage when I was about 8 years old. And I wasn't really ready to move into another man's house. At 8 years old, I was like, I don't want to learn somebody else's rules. So I decided to give my dad's a try. And my mom and dad were broken up since I don't even remember them together. 8 years old, I decided to move in with my dad. My mom allowed it to happen. She was brokenhearted, but she let it happen. Years later, she told me she used to cry herself to sleep at night. And that hit me. But for 3 years, my dad was on to a second marriage and I thought everything would be fine and would try it out. And for 3 years, though, I dealt with a lot of conflict, a lot of psychological, mental abuse, threats. My mom and stepmom and parent, like there was a lot of conflict going on. They're fighting each other. And I heard my mom called all kinds of names. And when things got really heated, sometimes I've heard threats my way. And so I used to sleep with a baseball bat at night. And by the way, I don't know the whole story. I'm not trying to bash anybody when I tell you this story. This is not about that. Everybody's got their issues, but a lot of times adults don't think about the ramifications of the impact of the children. And so for 3 years, I've thought that was ordinary. I thought that was normal, that you're supposed to go through something like that. And really coming out of about 10 years old, I started to realize this isn't normal. This isn't right. I don't have to live this way. And I knew it wasn't conducive to happiness. So I started thinking like, how can I get out of here? But I didn't want to share what was going on because when you're in an abusive situation, sometimes you're afraid of the fact that people may not believe you. You're also embarrassed by it, that you allow to go on for so long. And the other thing is sometimes that this is the weirdest thing, you're worried and concerned about the abuser themselves and what would happen to them. And I was going through all these thoughts in my head, but eventually I shared the information with my mom, what was going on. And that's not normal. You don't need to go through that. Are you kidding me? I was coming home from her house on a weekend. I was going over these hilly roads in southeastern Pennsylvania outside of Philly. And my stomach would be all upset going back to my dad's house. And I was just real anxious. I didn't really want to go back. I used to get quizzed about what happened that weekend when I would go back home. And you just imagine a kid going through something like that. So my mom said, look, I'm going to file court papers to get you out of there, but you can't flip flop. If I do this, you need to stick to your guns. And this is where the perversely unyielding comes from. But like, you need to stick to your guns. People are going to believe in other things and they're going to try to talk you out of your beliefs. Or if you start having success and advancing, people are going to try to pull you back down by talking you out of what you believe in and talking you out of your mission. You need to stick to your guns. So that stuck with me for years to this day. So my dad, I didn't tell him about this. And so weeks went by. I was waiting for these papers to be delivered and coming home every day, waiting for it to happen. And one day it finally did. And the tension in the room when I came home was just thick. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, here we go. So my dad said, go to your room. He had these papers in his hand. Go to your room. Now, my dad was my hero, man. Like I used to look forward when I was younger to go to his house every other weekend and spend time with him when I could. A lot of times I'd end up at his parents' house, my grandparents, because he was a mason. He used to work every time the weather was good because you never knew when the rain was going to come. And he had a successful concrete block, brick business, mason. And he had these big forearms and rough hands, man. You could tell he was a hard worker. He used to carry this wad of $100 bills in his pocket too, with a rubber band around it.
Uh-huh.
And I used to think that was the coolest thing, man. He showed me the money and what we got with it. So I went back and sat in my room for about 5 minutes, probably. It felt like 5 hours waiting for him to come back. Scared to death. I had no idea what was going to happen. And he came back and he said, it says here you want to move back with your mom. You got it great here, right? He used to remind me of that all the time. And your mom doesn't have it that great. She's marrying another man. They used to say men are coming in and out. They don't have any money. By the way, my mom we didn't have any money. Like, we lived in a $25,000 house. We used to go to the Jersey Shore for our vacations, which at least we had a vacation, but we would stay in this motel, an old rundown motel in one room with 6 of us, 4 kids, 2 adults. We'd stay in this room. Our suitcases would be black trash bags. That they were, but it didn't matter to me because I was tired of being treated the way I was being treated. And so I confirmed with my dad. I stuck to my guns. I didn't get into a discussion with him. And he said, okay, if that's the case. And he took out a wad of $100 bills, peeled one off, crumpled it up and threw it at me and said, here, then you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. You know, at that moment, I felt like my hero gave up on me a little bit, but immediately I looked past that and thought to myself, like, a challenge? Okay. I'm not going to need that money. I'll show you. So everything I did, Mike, I would play sports, school, work, anything I did from there. I tried to be the best. I woke up every morning trying to be the most valuable person I could be because I could not let that happen. That was a non-negotiable for me. So in my life, as I would go on for 30 some years, I was driving off of that spark. And I realized this subconsciously. I was just driving off of this. And when things would get tough or if things were going great and I wanted to take it to the next level, I used to think about that moment. And I used to ask myself, that's why the podcast is called, What Are You Made Of? I used to ask myself that question. What are you made of, man? Look at all the stuff you've been through. You went through child support, custody battles. You went through the court where you'd have to go in and talk to a child psychologist to see if you were mature enough to make a decision. You've been through all this. Is nothing. Keep pushing. 2 years ago, I went through a dark time in my life. The business fell apart that we were doing. That's a whole nother story. And I was searching him and I lost my stepfather, George, who took over as a father when I was 11. And he died suddenly of a heart attack coming out of the woods hunting. That was one of his passions. And I went through a phase where I just was like, man, what is going on in my life? Let me figure something out here, because everything that happened to me, good, bad, discouraged, all this stuff, I would always elevate. All my life I've elevated. And why is that the case? Like, I got to figure this out. So what I found was I was taking everything that would stop me, slow me down, discourage me, my screw ups, and I was converting it into rocket fuel for my future. And I say rocket fuel, by the way, because rocket fuel is the only thing I know that can get you into outer space. And outer space is away from gravitational pull, negativity, toxicity. I want to get away from all that. All of us want freedom away from all that. I've not met a person yet that wants to be mired in that stuff. So I specifically chose the word rocket fuel for that reason. And I like to do that rather than what most people do is they store all this garbage in their trunk and it weighs them down. And I choose not to do that. So I decided to write the book, Rocket Fuel, Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable, because I wanted to bottle this law, the rocket fuel law, and get it out to people, because I believe so strongly in it that if people proactively prepare themselves for setbacks, they can be unstoppable.
Man, I'll tell you what a story. And we all have stories like that. And I appreciate your vulnerability, your ability to be able to share that, because I think that goes a long way in healing and moving forward. Because you got to heal from some of that stuff in order to move forward. And I could actually sit here and think, man, I went through a lot of crap too when I was growing up like that. You move forward, right? You move past it, because that's what takes you to the next level. Or as you put it, rocket fuel to move into outer space. So, God, my hat's off to you. But how's your relationship with your folks today?
First of all, you said moving forward, and I have a saying that goes along with obviously rocket fuel. Thrust is a must. Like, I have to be thrusting forward, not just a little bit, but I have to go hard forward. And that's something that always has kept me going. So thrust is a must. Write that down if you're taking notes.
Yeah.
Because we need to move forward. We can't get stuck in anything. But the relationship now, for 10 years, I didn't see my dad. And then I went to my aunt's house, who was hosting my grandfather as he was passing away. She had him in the house and he was on his deathbed, and I went to visit him. And I was tight with my grandfather, Dominic. And he had just had his leg cut off because of diabetes infection. And I went there and my dad was there. And I hadn't seen my dad in 10 years. And my grandfather was just dying. And I walked in and I was just like, didn't have anything to say. And my dad didn't have anything to say. We looked at each other and I just gave him a big hug, man. And that was tough. And from that point on, we had a relationship again for a while. And despite everything that happened, I never hold a grudge. Despite everything that happened, man, it was a powerful moment. And it felt like I was so proud to be back in relationship again. And I mended ways with my stepmom at that point, and she admitted she had some issues and she was going to work on it. And then years went by. I had kids at that time. My dad got to see my kids, his grandkids, his first grandkids. And then after that moment, man, something else happened that I couldn't tell you what it is. I don't know what caused the conflict. There was nothing out of the ordinary happened. All of a sudden, my stepmother just cut it off. And I don't get to see my dad or anybody now. I tried reaching out, phone calls, texts, nothing. And it sucks. It really does. And at the end of the day, I've gone on to share my story about this, not because I want to bash him or anybody else, but I just want to share with people that no matter what you go through, you can be successful. You can be great no matter what the circumstances were. And I'm just trying to be a role model to people to show them that. And it's funny, I've been doing 300 interviews probably over the last 12 months. And she has actually reached out to podcast hosts. And I never talked about her before until she started doing that. I never brought her name up. I never said anything about her, but she would go on podcasts and try to diminish me and try to say I was lying and all this. And I never even talked about her, but she would out herself. So she's dealing with some issues, obviously. And even after all these years, I'm 44 years old. I still get a feeling in my chest about, gosh, man, like every time like something happens with that and she rears her head or something, it's just, oh man, there was such a traumatic time in my life, man. I just keep pressing forward. I'm not letting anybody stop me because I want to help people. I want to impact the world. I want to show people that they're unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams, despite circumstances, despite anything, including people. If somebody tries to stop them, no, dude, you just move them to the side and you keep going. So yeah, man, I don't get to see him now. It is what it is at this point. And I don't know what else I could do. One thing I don't want to do is cause conflict and drama and make anybody's life more difficult. So that's the battle that I fight is I can keep being persistent and reaching out, but at the end of the day, I don't want to cause problems.
Yeah, boy, it's a gentle balance, isn't it? In my situation, my history. And when I went away, I have two middle girls that their mom polluted the well and they don't talk to me. And it's hard. And it's hard when you are not talking to a parent or your parents aren't talking to you. It's everybody that's involved. Listen, I can't believe that your dad doesn't every day wonder how you are. And I just say that because I think it just sucks from everybody's vantage point. And what do? You can only do so much, and it is that gentle balance. So I would encourage you to keep reaching out, writing a letter, writing a card. Hey, just thinking about you, love you. Your grandkids would love to see you. And I think that at some point, something's got to give. I'm a big believer that what we put out there will come back to us. And if we put out love and continue to push that out, at some point it'll come back.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, maybe I'm just pushing all this information out there too to communicate through this medium. I know that nobody knew who I was just a couple years ago, maybe my local market, this and that, but I've gone really hard over the last couple of years to get out and known globally. And that way, and again, I'm just getting started. I'm going to go to some big places.
And what's that mean? Talk about that a little bit. What does that mean? And one of the things you challenged me on was I said, hey, I want to be on 100 podcasts when I came and approached you about being on your podcast. And you said to me, why only 100? I was on 300 last year. You challenged me from that aspect. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So I'm pushing that envelope. Why? Tell me what's in that.
I've learned from my mentor, Grant Cardone, that if we just push a little bit out there, it's just like a drop of rain in the ocean or a little pebble in the Grand Canyon. And that's not good enough. So if you want to make impact, you got to do everything in your power to make big impact. And then that's not even just by yourself. Then you got to surround yourself with people. So I can't do the mission that I want to do by my mission is all people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. I can't do it by myself. I need people to do that. I need to spread the message. And that's why I need to inspire millions of people to share this. And now that's my message, of course, but like my mentor, 10X, like I want to spread his message too. I don't compete with other people. I want to spread messages that align with my message. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so to make impact, look, impact in one life is worth it. I get it. But why stop there if you have the abilities to do more? A lot of people say, I get the thing about inspiring a person is makes it all worthwhile. I get that. But just make sure you're not saying that to justify your inactivity and you going big and your success. Because a lot of people do that in their mind. Their subconscious mind will try to justify why they're not doing more. And then that's not even just by yourself. Then you got to surround yourself with people. So I can't do the mission that I want to do by myself. I need people to do that. And that's why I need to inspire millions of people to share this. And now that's my message, of course, but like my mentor, 10X, like I want to spread his message too. I don't compete with other people. I want to spread messages that align with my message. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so to make impact, look, impact in one life is worth it. I get that. But just make sure you're not saying that to justify your inactivity and you going big and your success. Because a lot of people do that in their mind. Their subconscious mind will try to justify And they'll say, well, at least I inspire one person or a couple people. Dude, listen, you got the ability to inspire millions of people. Why would you stop? Don't try to justify it. Yes, it's important to inspire one life and change one life. But if you have the ability to do more and you don't, there's an ethical dilemma to me.
Yeah. Let's talk about ethics a little bit. Okay. Great segue. What's your belief around integrity, ethics?
The word integrity to me means to make whole. And so integrity is something that you have to work on every single day. And when you wake up in the morning, you have to decide to be in integrity again. Ethics, on the other hand, ethics to me comes down to good and evil. And I'll tell you what the definition of good to me is: anything that you say, think, or do that goes towards survival, goes towards an individual surviving. It goes towards a group surviving, mankind surviving. Anything that goes towards survival is considered good ethically to me. Bad or evil is the opposite of that. So in life, I like to make things simple. I talk about rocket fuel a lot, but I'm not talking about rocket science a lot.
Yeah.
I like to make things simple. You're either going towards something or away, building or destroying. And for me, that creates a filter for me in my life where this beer right here, do I want to drink this beer? Does this beer go towards my mission or away from it? Does a line of cocaine go towards my mission or away from it? Does skipping my workout go towards my mission or away from it? So I can think and make all these decisions throughout my day really simply because I'm going towards my mission.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's when it comes down to ethics. If you just think about what goes towards survival and what goes away from survival and make the decision, if you don't know, get some help and ask, get some counseling.
Yeah, interesting. And I would encourage people that if they are in a situation where it's a little bit overwhelming for them or they can't handle it on their own, to go get some help. I think it's important.
Yeah,
Hey,
seek counsel, not opinion. Do not get opinion from people that are not successful in the area that you're getting information on. Too many
Yeah.
people have the wrong data. And that's a very important message because most people listen to opinions from people that have not accomplished anything.
Based on your history, where you've come from, where you're at today, based on my history, and I think we both carry messages into society, into the world that bring hope and inspiration, bring the ability to transform. What other than that, because I think that makes such a social impact, but other than that, what else are you trying to do to do something to socially impact the world today?
I got into social media a lot and going really hard into social media, connecting with people, building relationships, because I saw such a huge opportunity in that. And in doing that, I messaged this guy one time. His name's Jared. And Jared and I hit it off. We did an Instagram live together and we hit it off. And what he's doing is he created a thing called Sela Labs. And Sela Labs is a tech incubator company where he matches entrepreneurs that have an idea for tech or a problem solving idea that don't have tech connections, don't have the resources. And then he matches them up with the tech side of things, co-founds companies, and then change the world. He's got a goal of 10,000 companies launched in 10 years. And that sounds like a lot. It's 1,000 a year. And I even thought, you're crazy, dude. That's a good, big, hairy, audacious goal. But come on, man, really 10,000 in 10 years? But then he set that out there and then he came up with an idea of how to do it. He didn't figure out how to do it first and then come up with that big audacious goal.
Right,
Committed first. And then the idea behind it is, besides regular adults, they're building a thing called a young entrepreneur movement, YEM. And basically it's taking people in colleges, college kids, and doing a program with them to teach them how to come up with a big idea, a problem solving idea. And then we vet it out and market it and check the market for the product to make sure it's a viable product. And then if it is, we help those young entrepreneurs bring their product to market with finding investors, go-to-market team, ideating on the idea of the product. And just hopefully, so if you think about a college, like if you think about a large college university, and let's say 5,000 college students sign up for this program to learn. This is one of the things that they could sign up to learn. If you get that 5,000 at each college, you can see how he could get to 10,000 companies in 10 years.
Yeah.
And so the aim is high here, really trying to impact millions of people and especially young entrepreneurs into creating opportunities for them to make big impact on this planet. And I'm committed to that mission.
Good for you guys. That's awesome. I think that we're in a world today where pressure, stress, strife comes upon people. We've got people in C-suites around the world, running teams, building organizations, building companies that are faced with challenges every day. Stress, high-stake choices and decisions. when you find yourself in the face of that type of situation going on in your life or around you, how do you go about rationalizing or making high stake decisions in your life?
First of all, I don't try to rationalize anything. I don't try to reason. I don't try to do any of that because I'm way above that. And most people are, they just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
I want to be unreasonable. I want to be ridiculous. So when challenges come my way, they're not as big as they are to most people because I'm thinking way beyond. If you're thinking about millions and hundreds of millions of dollars or $100 million problems, $10,000, $100,000 problems aren't going to be as big to you. First of all, I think bigger, think future rather than what the small issue is here. I like to talk about thinking omni-focused rather than individual focused. An individual is just focused on right now, what's going on right in front of them. Omni-focus is looking at the big playing field, looking at now, looking at the future. Or you could say the big picture, right? So that's basically the approach that I have. But really, when challenges come or problems come, I'm very fast. Like I don't run from things. I lean into it. I attack it. And I really get after the fact of, okay, what is the issue here? And how can we solve it as fast as possible? No, we don't just stop there because that's transactional. How can we be transformative with this?
Yeah.
Not just be problem solvers, but I want to be the type of guy when I walk in a room, the problems run. They're like, oh shit, Ciorrocco's here. That's the attitude that you have to have. And also go to the source. What's causing the problem? Let's just not solve problems. That's good to solve problems and not complain about them. But let's not just solve them. Let's go find out the source of the problem and knock that son of a bitch out. And once you knock that out, then you got other problems you can focus on rather than that one that happens over and over again, because the definition of insanity is having the same thing over and over happen or doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So that's the way I approach it.
Yeah, sometimes people solve problems by just putting a Band-Aid on it. And I like what you're saying is you're going to the source and taking care of the source. One thing I used to tell the people in my office was, hey, listen, don't come to me with a problem unless you come to me with 3 solutions. Come to me with the problem, bring 3 solutions, and then we'll figure out which solution is the right one. Because I hate living in that world of problems. And I think that too many people spend their time there and it holds you back. And if our mission is to not hold people back and to empower people to move forward, then that's a great philosophy to take on. This show's called Insider Secrets. And I always ask somebody, this is a little out of the box for us today, because normally we're talking about real estate and investing. And you know what? I think this message is just as important as any of that other stuff, because people don't grow professionally unless they grow personally. And it's this personal growth stuff that really makes people excel and become who they become as a result. So with that said, Insider Secrets, how about a couple of secrets that you would share that maybe you wouldn't share somewhere else?
Wow, the deathbed of my grandfather, that story I didn't share anywhere else. But I'll tell you another one. This is going to be so silly in a way, but so powerful at the same time. Not many people know this, but if you could get 100% participation with yourself for the things that need to be done, that would create an unstoppable person. And the way to do that, Mike, this is going to seem so silly and obvious, but people just don't get it sometimes. When you don't want to do something that you need to do it anyway. When you don't feel good, do it anyway. When it gets hard and difficult, do it anyway. If you can do this, here's a guarantee from Ciorrocco. If you can do this, you got 100% participation from yourself, because when you have it easy, when you feel great, of course you're going to do what you need to do. You just got to get past that portion of when you don't feel like doing it, when it's difficult, when it gets hard, and try to shrink that down to as little amount of possible times. And once you do those things, you got 100% participation from yourself, and you're going to be unstoppable, achieving things you want to achieve. So that's one little secret that most people just don't know, and they don't do it. They're not intentional and aware of it. The other thing I would tell you, man, I got so many, Mike. I got so many. But another one I'll tell you, bottom line is that if I'll talk about my 3 C's for a second. And if you don't have these 3, you're not going to be successful at anything. Clarity. You got to know what you want. You got to get real clear on it and visualize it in your head. You got to make it real. When you do that, you start thinking about what it's going to be like to achieve whatever it is. What kind of life do I want to live? How's it going to actually feel? What emotions are going to come along with that? Who do I want around me? You start thinking about this and printing it in your brain. Write it down. Clarity. Commit to it. That's the second C, commitment. You have to commit to it. Once you commit to it, you got to be perversely unyielding towards it, like I talked about before. And then the last thing is consistency. Consistency is the key to success. I've never had anything good happen to me in my life that stuck around and lasted long that I wasn't consistent with. I didn't use those 3 C's on. Consistency is boring. Let me say that again. Consistency is boring. Let's get that out of the way ahead of time. So when you start to get bored, you realize this is part of the game. And with consistency, you need to write this formula down. Consistency is greater than feelings. Consistency is greater than feelings. It doesn't matter how you feel. You need to do it anyway.
Good stuff, Mike. Really good stuff. That you talk about consistency and the boredom part of it. I always say that if you can master the repetitious boredom in your life, those mundane things that you do over and over again, it's just like when I would teach my kids, Little League team, to field grounders over and over again. Hey, coach, can't we hit the ball? Can't we do some pop-ups? Not till you learn how to do grounders. It's mastering that repetitious boredom of those fundamentals, those things. Those are the things that drive your business. Those are the things that propel you. That was good stuff. Hey, I just real quick want to touch on the social media thing. So you're a huge networker. You're out there. You're meeting people all over the world. Best techniques for doing that?
First, again, you got to get clear on what you want. It's boring, guys. I know there's no shiny bells or whistles. You need to be committed and you need to be consistent. You're not going to create in relationships and connections and build upon them if you're not consistent with it. And every social media platform, I take intentional action on building my social media platforms out so that when I do reach out to people, they check it out and they're like, oh yeah, I want to connect with this guy. So I created what's called an attraction model. I want people to be attracted to working with me, to wanting to talk to me.
Yeah.
I don't care what people think. I don't care what people say about me, but I do care. And I'm very concerned about the experience people have with me. Like when I'm get off this podcast, I want you to be thinking, damn, dude, that guy, he over delivered. It was more than I thought. I was so excited about having him on, but man, he over delivered. And then you go tell people about it. You're like, this guy, Ciorrocco, we'll listen to this episode. I've had people on my show, right, that were super successful people, famous people, and the show didn't go that good. Then I've had others that just blew it away. And I'm telling my wife, I'm telling my friends, I'm telling everybody, man, I want to make people feel the way my heroes made me. So that social media thing, pay attention to what you're putting, pay attention to how you're building your social media, pay attention to the experience that you're creating for people.
Yeah, very important. Good stuff. Thank you. Hey, listen, let's lighten it up a little bit. I feel like we're a little bit heavy here today, but I think it's good because people need that. But you're in Florida, right?
No, I'm actually in Ocean City, Maryland. And I do go to Florida a lot. That's my second spot, man, but I'm in Maryland.
All right. So Ocean City, Maryland, favorite tourist attraction?
You know, I like taking my kids to the rides. They have rides open up here when the weather gets better, and taking the kids to the Ferris wheel and the roller coasters and things. And I just remember being a kid, what it was like. And I used to beg my parents when we came to the beach, hey, can we go to the rides? Can we go to the boardwalk? Can we go to the boardwalk? And the boardwalk has all the shops and the boardwalk fries and the rides and all that. So I think it still gets to me, and I love to see my kids' face and the energy that they put out when we go there.
Nice. Good for you. Favorite restaurant? Can't be a Coney Island dog either.
The restaurant, like locally here, or just
in general?
There's so many good ones. I like to go to Miami, man, and there's a lot of good ones in Miami. I'll just throw out there. There's one particular one. I like this vibe when you go to Miami, these restaurants, and they play music, and it's kind of loud but muted in a way, and it's like a little bit of high energy music, and you're eating and it's an experience. It's like a show. I'll give a shout out to my man. Poppy Steak is a good one. I'll throw out Poppy Steak in Miami. It's in South Beach.
Okay. All right, good. And other than 10X, best book you've ever read?
There's a lot of good ones, but I'll go with Beyond Positive Thinking by Dr. Robert Anthony, and I'm going to throw another one in there. The new one out that just came out from Tim Story, Miracle Mentality. The Miracle Mentality is a great book as well.
Nice. Good stuff. Mike, why don't you talk about your book, tell people how they can get a hold of you, and I think you have a time management program also.
Yeah, so anybody that buys the book off your show, I'll throw in a free time management or time creation course that I put together. Time is the most valuable thing besides your health. And I want to help people create time. And I have ways to do that. And I put a little course together for that. So if you buy the book and you just shoot me a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn at Mikey Ciorrocco on Instagram, Mikey Ciorrocco, I'll throw that time management, time creation course in for free. The book is called Rocket Fuel, Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable. Grant Cardone wrote the foreword. He talks about how rocket fuel has affected his life, his business. And that book is on Amazon at the end of April and also at mikeciorrocco.com/book.
Okay, perfect. And that's how people get a hold of you, Mike at mikeciorrocco.com?
No, actually, if you just DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, it's probably the easiest way.
Yeah, boy, that's just simple today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Listen, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, man. Just know that you are unstoppable to living the life of your dreams. All you got to do is take everything that would normally stop people or slow them down, store it in your tank instead of your trunk, and convert it into rocket fuel for your future.
Hey, thanks for being here. And I just want to tell all my listeners, I say, I'm just going to steal something from C-Rock, which is, what are you made of? And I just want you to go out there and think about yourself today and think about where you're at, who you are, because who you are matters so much more than what you are. Hey, listen, at the core, just take care of yourself and we'll see you next week. Mike, thanks for being here.
Appreciate you, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for joining us for another great episode of Insider Secrets. As always, Insider Secrets is brought to you by My Core Intentions. Join us on social media and visit mycoreintentions.com, where you can get expert coaching on all things multifamily investing and property management. We're looking forward to having you back again next week for more Insider Secrets.